Alright, ladies and gentlemen, with ESCOFFIER just recently releasing, I figured what better thing to do than to test her out with all of our current cryo DPS in the game right now. Now, this will be split across two accounts. I do have both Wriothesley and Ayaka on this account, whereas on the other account I have Ganyu and ESCOFFIER as well. When it comes to the teams we're going to be using real quick, for the Wriothesley team, I'm going to be using, of course, Farina, ESCOFFIER, and then Shenhe as well. One thing I should mention is that my Ayaka, Shenhe, Farina, and Ganyu are all C0R0. The only one who has a constellation is Wriothesley, but to make up for that, I'm going to be playing him on a level 80 R1 Mapamare instead of the Witzif I usually use on him to tank his stats slightly. So yeah, and then like I said, C0R0 on all of our units. ESCOFFIER is only level 70 with a level 75 lance as well as 166 talents here. Just to show how well she can perform when she's not fully invested into it yet, as well as the fact that, you know, we don't want to rely too much on the second half buff because it's pretty crazy. So yeah. So, you know, these teams' performance can go even crazier. And then for the Ayaka team, simply what we're going to be doing is we're going to be replacing Wriothesley with our Ayaka. It's basically the exact same team. And then when we're going to be playing with our Ganyu, of course, Ganyu is going to be our main DPS, but we will be swapping out Shenhe for Diona so that we can get some shielding. So yeah, that's the plan for today. But real quick, if you want to pick yourself up either an ESCOFFIER or a Skuk in the future, then I have the perfect thing for you, and that's today's sponsor, lootbar.gg. You can use Lootbar to top up in your favorite games like Genshin Impact or Honkai Star Rail and save up to 25%, which now applies on Xbox and PS5 as well. Lootbar leverages favorable exchange rates and uses Hoyoverse's partner route, so you can get the most affordable prices and still enjoy the top-up bonuses you would in-game. Transactions on Lootbar are safe, simple, and secure, as you only need to enter your UID and your region, and you will get fast delivery. I decided I'm going to buy one of my friends the Welkin Moon as a little gift, so I just go here, copy and paste their UID, and then just have to enter their region, and then I just press top up now, and I received my purchase in literally less than 10 seconds. Creators like Ride and Shotgun, Tevat Times, and Mordex Tryhard are also collaborating with Lootbar, so they are trustworthy, and they also have thousands of positive reviews on Trustpilot. And I've used it myself before, so I can vouch for the authenticity, speed, and security. New users can also get an extra 8% off, so be sure to check out Lootbar with the link in the description. Thank you to Lootbar, and back to the video. Alright, and here we are with our Ganyu and ESCOFFIER. Now what I should mention is this is my first time playing ESCOFFIER, so I hope I don't make any mistakes. Also, this is my first time using Ganyu in the Abyss in such a long time. She was like the first character I pulled on this account back when in like version 3.0. Because I really wanted the main DPS after getting Zhongli. So yeah, actually, no, it was 3.1 when she reran, I think. So yeah, I mean, we've already taken this guy's shield down, his health bar down in about 20 seconds, but he's not the main enemy on this floor. Now let's just get as much cryo applied as we can so that we can take his shield. Okay, his shield's actually already gone, basically. Okay, and he should be down. There we go. And we do have the seahorse now that we are up against. Okay, we have our bursts up, so I might as well just go ahead and use them. Our energy rotations on this team are actually pretty damn clean just because we have a lot of Fav on here, which is the really nice thing about this team archetype, and then also a lot of cryoparticles for our Ganyu, which is nice, and then the Fav obviously helps to help out our Farina, even if she doesn't get any second hydro particles, and we should be able to take him down before he goes up in the air. Yep. Perfect, and we're doing some decent damage here with our Ganyu. Half of his health bar is already gone, and I will say I have tried using Ganyu in Abyss 12. Actually, I think I used her a bit when Farina released, but I don't think I've used her in Abyss since like version 4.2 basically. So yeah, it's basically been over a year, and I have tried her sometimes, but she never felt very good, although we did manage to clear this in about 90 seconds, which, you know what, I'll take it for it being the first time I'm basically using Ganyu and Esco. And with that being said, let's move on to the second chamber. Alrighty then, second chamber. Hopefully we can get our energy quickly. I'm hoping that particle can help us out. So we have, once again, basically 95 seconds to clear this, so let's see how quickly we can take this out. Get our ESCOFFIER burst up here. Actually, I technically should have funneled her with Diona. I think that probably would have been the play there, but oh well, because, you know, we don't really need to use Diona's ultimate here. Okay, 41k there on our charge attacks. Now, I'm pretty sure if an enemy, as long as they don't even need to be frozen, as long as an enemy has cryo on them, we should have 100% crit rate, because I'll show off my builds at the end. But basically, I have 45 crit rate on Ganyu, which if you add in the 15% from cryo res, as long as they're frozen or have cryo aura on them, that's another plus 15%, and then Blizzard, which brings us to 60. Blizzard Strayer gives you plus 40, 20 if they've got Cryo Aura, and then another 20 if they're frozen. But Ganyu does have the passive, where she does get an extra 20 crit rate whenever you shoot one of her arrows, so we should be fine. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to keep him frozen the entire time. I think that was our Hydro apps getting a bit unlucky there. So honestly, if he didn't get his shield up, we probably would have taken him out even sooner. We are struggling with energy here. I think if I retry this, I think I could probably get about 20 seconds quicker, but either way, we'll still be able to clear in about 80 seconds-ish. So you know what? Still good enough, and it's time to move on to the third chamber. Alright, and here we are on the final chamber here. Let's see, how does our team hold up? This should be the hardest chamber. These guys do have a fair bit of HP, although we are able to freeze them, which of course is very nice. Now let's see if we use our ultimate here on Ganyu. These guys should get shredded. I mean, there's just so many cryo numbers happening right now. Now, obviously, if you had Shenhe, this team would be dealing even more damage, which is kind of insane to think about. Although, I will say that one thing about Ganyu, which I think makes her the worst of the free cryo DPS, is that, you know, if you do get staggered, then it can be quite annoying. But if they're all enemies that you can freeze, then you should be able to have a very good time, I would say. Okay, this guy's about half health left. We've actually managed to absolutely destroy the time right here on this floor. Let's see. Okay, 8:22. Okay, 20 seconds left. Can we take this guy out in a minute? If we clear chamber 3 the fastest, that's going to be quite backwards, although, to be fair, our energy rotations have been going quite well. I will say ESCOFFIER makes Ganyu feel so much better to play, and I don't feel bad. Normally, I'd play like Kazuha here for the grouping, but since we can't, I don't actually feel bad about playing a shielder. And, you know, you can't use Yelan with Ganyu, and then also, so, you know, Shenhe's your only option. And then it's either Shenhe or a defensive option, and honestly I think it's better to go with a defensive option so that you don't have to worry too much about dodging, and you can just stand in place and shoot all of your arrows. Layla or Diona work well. Since I already have Diona built, that I am using her. She's also really good for batterying in case you need the cryoparticles on ESCOFFIER. So yeah, this team felt very good to play. We did not have to take more than 90 seconds for any floor, and I believe we took about 60 seconds. I wasn't quite looking for that final chamber. So yeah, pretty strong performance, but now let's move on to our Ayaka. Alright, and here we are with our Ayaka. Now, I honestly feel like Ayaka is probably going to end up being the best winner from ESCOFFIER. I mean, this team, I'm just ready for it to do absolutely insane damage. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to use Shenhe's press skill, because that's the one which gives us the burst, the nice little boost to our ultimate. And we're hitting 34k there per tick with our Ayaka. Now, basically what's going to happen here is if the enemy is frozen, we're also going to have 100% crit rate on Ayaka, so her burst is just going to hit for some absolutely nutty numbers right here. Now, honestly, the reason why I feel like ESCOFFIER is going to work best with Ayaka is because I feel like, you know, Wriothesley you can play in a melt team, but Ayaka is very centered around the freeze reaction, and ESCOFFIER makes the freeze reaction absolutely broken. Also, Shenhe is like really, really good with Ayaka, and ESCOFFIER makes sure that you can battery your Shenhe even easier. There's just so many cryoparticles here that you have no issue getting your Ayaka's cryoparticles here. I will mention the rotation I'm doing on the second chamber because it'll probably be slightly more important there. But anyway, we're just going to end here with our Ayaka skill and then move on to our supports as well. I think we should be able to take this guy out incredibly quickly, if I'm being entirely honest. And yep, I'm not even going to bother ulting. This guy just got absolutely deleted. This was definitely our fastest time, although that's partly helped by the fact that he didn't go in the air. So although we cleared faster than Ganyu, and I do feel like we did better than Ganyu there, part of that is because obviously the seahorse, we got him down in time, but also part of it is due to just what insane amounts of damage she does. So yeah, mix between the two. So far, I am loving Ayaka and ESCOFFIER. With that being said, it's time to move on to the second chamber. Alright, and here we are on our on the second chamber. Now, if you're wondering what I normally do for my rotation, it's one Ayaka skill and then into our supports, because I'm using Amenoma. First of all, this gives us some more cryoparticles for the entire team, which is nice because both Shenhe and ESCOFFIER really want to have their ultimate. But basically, by the time I'm about to use my ult, I can already use my skill there. Now, I would have ulted there, but because that guy had such low HP, I figured it didn't really matter. So yeah, just using an extra skill there funnels a little bit more energy for our entire team. And also, if you're using Amenoma on Ayaka like I am, because like I said, this is a very free-to-play Ayaka, then you will get even more of the passive, which gives you more energy on Amanoma, which is huge for getting as many ultimates as you can. So as you can see, we have insane uptime here on our ultimate. Now with no Shenhe quills, we're hitting for about 25k on our ult, and then we're hitting for about 36k. And this guy got absolutely deleted. I don't think we even took a minute there, despite all three of the enemies. We got our ults insanely quickly. We did insane amounts of damage. And yeah, that's basically as perfect as it gets. Now let's move on to the third chamber and hope we... Right, and here we are on the third chamber. Now I did just check, we took 50 seconds there on the second chamber, so let's see how fast we can go. Once again, starting off with our skill. If our teammates didn't have their particles, that could help us funnel them, but then like I said, also gives us the extra stack for our Ayaka. Now hopefully we can line up our ultimate so that it hits both of these guys here. Yep, perfect. Also, the one thing I love about this team is normally when you're playing Ayaka with Kaza, you'd have to swap back into Kaza to refresh his skill. But in this team, you don't need to do that. You can just stay on Ayaka and then do N2C dash is the combo I normally do on our Ayaka to refresh my cryo on my normal attacks. So yeah, it's... as you can see here, ultimate, and then I dash, N2C dash, N2C dash, sometimes N1C, but I don't want to waste too much stamina. Okay, perfect, and now we're already on the final boss, and we have had our ult up every single time on all of our supports. Are we going to finish this off with our ult up on Ayaka? The answer is yes, so we go here for a skill for 72k, and now 32k's on the ultimates, going down to 20k's once we've gotten rid of our Shenhe stacks. And there we go. I believe that was a clear under a minute once again, if I'm not mistaken. Ayaka definitely has felt the best so far. I love the Ayaka ESCOFFIER team. It literally makes her feel insane to play. So yeah, if you have Ayaka and you really like Ayaka, I would definitely recommend getting ESCOFFIER. If you have her but you're not that bothered about using her, you don't have to worry about getting ESCOFFIER unless you're also going to pick up Skak. But I'll leave more to my final thoughts after we go into the character builds and outro once we finish this Wriothesley run, which I'm about to do. Alright, and here we are doing our final run using our Wriothesley. Now, once again, remember I am using a Mapamari on Wriothesley because I do have his C1. We are going to use our hold skill here for Wriothesley because that's the one which buffs normal and charge attack damage. So yeah, okay, this guy is frozen now. By the way, if anyone's going to say, oh, you're playing them on the second half which increases skill damage or cryo skill damage, that doesn't really apply to any of the DPS that we're playing here because both Wriothesley and Ganyu deal normal and charge attack damage, whilst Ayaka, she does some skill damage, but most of her damage is coming from her ultimate, and also probably more comes from her normal and charge attacks than from her skill. Now, of course, this does buff ESCOFFIER's damage, but remember, I am using a ESCOFFIER which is level 70 with 166 talents. So yeah, that's in order to make this more relatable to future abysses, so that our characters aren't getting shielded right here. I'd say what you're seeing right here is just the pure power of cryo right now. And okay, this guy goes in the air just barely, so this is going to slow our time down slightly, but we should still be fine overall. Okay, perfect. I'm just going to ult there in case that wanted to hit us. Okay, now let's go into our team's rotation. Unfortunately, we were missing our skill there on our ESCOFFIER, but we should be fine either way. Then skill into ult onto our Shenhe. Okay, let's see, 70k there on the charge attack. I will take that. Okay, 48k there, not too sure why, but okay. Perfect. That is already us done with the first chamber, so let's move on to the second chamber. Alright, and here we are with our Wriothesley on the second chamber. We are slightly short on energy here. I'm not sure if that's just because I might have messed up one rotation, or if that's just because there are slightly less particles from Wriothesley than there is from Ayaka, because Ayaka does use her skill a lot, and her skill also generates 4 energy, I believe, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Anyway, 73k there, which is nice. One thing I will mention is that what's nice about Wriothesley is he's on Martial Say rather than Blizzard Strayer, so if the enemies aren't freezable, he won't miss out on the crit rate. So I think Ayaka, you can choose to build Blizzard Strayer or Martial Say. I think Ganyu, you can also choose which one you want to do. For Ganyu, the benefit is if you're using Martial Say, you only need to get her to 80 because she does get the 20% from her passive. So, you know, those are the kind of stuff you could look into, but I just decided to keep both Ganyu and Ayaka on Blizzard Strayer, whilst Wriothesley is on Martial Say, just because that's what I already had built on them, and I also have a very good build for them. Okay, and okay, so Wriothesley literally just cleared this in 50 seconds, so I guess he's forcing me to shut up and move on to the third chamber, so I guess I'll see you guys there. Well, in time for our final round of the showcase. We're also not missing any ults this time, so we can go all out. Okay, we just need to make sure that these guys are grouped together. Remember, we are using the hold skill here on Shenhe. One thing I will mention, if you don't have Shenhe, Yelan is very good with Wriothesley. She's less good with Ayaka, but still decent, I'd say. I mean, your freeze time's probably going to be more consistent because you don't have to rely on Furina's solo Hydra application, and then between Escoffier's cryo application and then your main DPS's cryo application, you know, you should be doing a swell job there. But anyway, what I will say is that, once again, Escoffier just makes Wriothesley freeze teams feel a lot better to play. They already were decent, but I feel like this makes them competitive with his melt teams. I will get onto this a bit more when I give my final thoughts, but I do think like Wriothesley is the least reliant on Escoffier, but then, you know, she does definitely bring up his freeze teams either way, so, you know, if... I definitely do think she does have a lot of value, but anyway, let's see. Okay, once again, we might be looking at a sub 1 minute clear here. It's very possible. I'm not sure how, you know, maybe if you have a C0 Wriothesley, but with his signature weapon or with like an R5 Witsif, like I'd normally be running him on, then he would be dealing more damage here. But either way, I'm still very impressed with his Escoffier performance. There we go, we managed to clear the Found Chamber. So yeah, that's it from me right now. Let's move on to all of our character builds as well as some final thoughts. Alright, so when it comes to my thoughts on Escoffier, I will say I absolutely love what she does for cryo. I know some people are complaining, saying that this is power creep, which I kind of disagree with, to be honest. I feel like what Escoffier is doing is bringing the current cryo DPS units up to the current meta. Now, could this change with Skirk? Possibly, but I just want to talk about right now because I don't want to go too much into leaks or speculation. Right now, I feel like Escoffier has done a great thing for the game because Wriothesley, Ayaka, and Ganyu all feel fresh and great to play. They do feel on par with some of the current units which have currently released. I actually prefer them to some more modern units now with Escoffier's release. When it comes to how reliant are they on them, I'd say Ayaka is probably the most reliant because, I mean, the Escoffier Ayaka team just feels so smooth to play. It's actually crazy. And then also, Ayaka is the one which is most reliant on freeze, whereas Ganyu has some melt variations and Wriothesley has very good melt teams. So I definitely do feel like Escoffier is best for Ayaka. If you have Ayaka and you want to play her, I definitely do recommend I definitely do recommend picking up an Escoffier. But if you have two cryo DPS, then once again you should pick up an Escoffier. If you're planning on going for Skirk, you should also probably pick up an Escoffier. That's at least what I think. That's normally how you design stuff. But if you only have like one cryo unit, if you have like Wriothesley or Ganyu and you don't really feel like playing them for freeze, you don't need to pick up an Escoffier. I don't think Escoffier is a must pull unless you want to pull for cryo or possibly for Skirk. But if you don't want to play cryo, then I definitely do recommend picking her up. The teams feel incredible, especially the Ayaka one. The Ayaka one is my favorite. Then it's probably the Wriothesley one, and then it's the Ganyu one. Although the Ganyu one I still enjoy a lot, even though I did rank her third here. I feel like Ganyu has become a very viable unit. I do feel like Ganyu might have received the biggest upgrade because I feel like she was barely playable in her previous state when it comes to freeze teams, especially with Abyss design. But now I feel like she is a very viable unit. Same with Wriothesley freeze teams, also very viable. And then Ayaka teams with Escoffier might actually be top 5 in the game right now. I'm not gonna lie, it's definitely crazy. Now, real quick, when it comes to our character builds, I don't want to go too much in depth because we do have quite a few characters to go through, but this is how they're looking right now. I should mention Wriothesley, if you go back to my previous video, I showed off how our Wriothesley is a top 3% Wriothesley right now, used to be top 2%. Our Ayaka is also top 3%, also used to be top 2%. And then Ganyu is still top 2%, impressively. So yeah, 10, 10, 10. This is how his stats would be looking if I was using Witsif instead of Mapamare, so that you guys can get a better idea. 51 crit rate, which basically becomes 100 in the freeze team, and then 290 crit damage as well. For Ayaka, it's 47 crit rate, which goes up to basically 100, 227 crit damage, as well as 134 ER. You can bump this down now, since there's so much cryo on there. Also with an R5 Amenoma. Blizzard Strayer as well, like I mentioned. This is one of my favorite pieces I have. Also this timepiece, very good. It is our off piece. We actually have a strong on piece, Cry Goblet, which makes all the difference in this build. And now we don't even need that much ER on it anymore. And then crit damage, we don't get much crit rate from here, but we actually do get a lot of attacks. So this Ayaka is pretty damn strong. C0 with 10, 10, 10 talents. If the flower was slightly better, then that would be nice. Escoffier, as I showed off already, 50% crit rate, 165 crit damage, 135 ER. Would be able to have a bit more. I don't have a fully leveled Fav Lance for her yet, unfortunately. So, you know, her healing, basically she's missing quite a bit of healing because her thing is only level 6. And then we don't get much attack from our Fav Lance. So yeah, and then it is also R1, then also Golden Troop with double crit as well, because we don't want to build her for some damage, you know, a little bit of ER there. Also, she is on attack crit damage too, and then Constellations, she is C0, like I said, 166 talents. For our Shenhe, 34 crit, 75 crit damage, 217 ER. On a level 95 Lance R5, I find her attack matters more than our thingies. She's also on a 2-piece attack with another 2-piece attack, full attack as well. Constellation C0 with 110 talents. And then for our Farina, before I switch to our second account, 64 crit, 183 crit damage, 222 ER. And then also level 90 Fav Sword, once again, Golden Troop, just like ESCOFFIER. ESCOFFIER basically took up my failed Farina relics for the most part. C0 with 210 talents, and then quickly moving on to the second account. Well, I forgot this is where I left this account. Anyway, if we quickly go through our build here, our Ganyu 46 crit, 214 crit damage. Like I said, we do overcap 20 by crit if they are frozen, but if they're not frozen, then it gets us basically to 102 crit, which is nice. Again, this is how our pieces are looking. Our feather could be slightly better, but it's still pretty damn good. And then timepiece, once again, our off piece here isn't as good, but I mean, once again, it gives us a lot of attack and just enough crit rate. And then this is how our circlet looks on our Ganyu. I am very proud of all of my cryo characters. Hopefully Skirk can continue. Also, for our talents is 10-6-10 on our Ganyu. She is once again C0. For Farina, 64 crit, 207 crit damage, 168 ER. Once again, Fav Sword, level 80, R1. Also there, Golden Troop, just as you would expect, HP crit damage. C0 with 210 talents. For our ESCOFFIER, she is 60 crit, 176 crit damage, 138 ER with a level 85 lance, slightly better than the one on our main account, but basically the same. Once again, 166, just to make sure that we don't get too many buffs from the Abyss, and also to show that there is still room for improvement. I mean, because if her healing isn't as good, then it means that she stacks Farina fanfare stacks lower, which isn't as much of a problem for Wriothesley because he is a Fontaine unit and he has his own HP manipulation, but it does matter more for Ganyu as well as Ayaka, and I think their bursts, actually no, Ayaka's burst doesn't snapshot, I don't think. And then Diana, who really cares, Fav level 1 because we don't really use her ult, and then 2-piece HP for as strong of a shield as we can get. C6, her C6 doesn't really matter, and then 111.9 talents. So yeah, that's it in conclusion. I definitely do recommend picking up an ESCOFFIER if you want to play Cryo or if you're going for Skirk. She's not a must pull, she doesn't make Cryo like insane, you have to play Cryo, but she does put it in a much healthier state, so it's no longer the worst element in the game. With that being said, hope you guys enjoyed, and see ya.